Welcome everybody to the X Factor podcast today, and today is the most anticipated day in life. After weeks of procrastinating, I have finally got my mock drafts done. I got one done. I have three done right now. Today I'm going to show number one. Tomorrow I'm going to show mock draft number two. And then Thursday, the day of the draft, I will show mock draft number 3, and then Friday I will review the draft and which ones I got wrong, which ones I got right. This year's draft feels a lot different than past year's drafts because there's a lot of drama going into the draft with some teams, and it's gonna shake up the draft just a little bit this year, more than what it has in the last couple of years. But we're gonna get right into it here. My first overall pick, I have the Panthers taking the one, the only, Bryce Young. I think it's the most obvious answer. He's had a really, really good career in Alabama. Last year throwing 32 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, a completion rating of 64.5, and only played 12 games. If he would have played all 15 games, he would probably have, the 40 touchdown mark potentially. And that's only in 3 games. So, and maybe hitting 4,000 yards. And then, his 2021 season, one of the best seasons he's ever had. Well, his best season he's had in college. So, that's my first overall pick. Second overall pick. This is where everything gets a little dicey. This is where it can fuck up a lot of drafts. This is where it can fuck up a lot of people's mock drafts. And this has been what I have been trying to figure out this entire week. Because, coming into this mock draft, coming into the mock drafts everyone was making, it was always Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud. Now, reports are coming out, and it's obvious that the agent that's with C.J. Stroud is also the agent for Deshaun Watson. Houston's already dealt with Deshaun Watson. They've already dealt with all that. That's where it comes into play. What are they going to do? Are they going to go defensive player here and wait until next year's draft, or are they gonna trade down and get like a Will Levis, Anthony Richardson? I'm gonna tell you right here, I think that must be the dumbest thing they could ever do. I'm gonna tell you why it's the dumbest thing they could ever do. It's once in a generation. You can find a really, really good quarterback, a quarterback of the future that the Texans have been wanting for years. They tried getting that one Carr dude. Yeah, Derek Carr's older brother. I can't remember his name. Derek Carr, not his brother is David Carr. That's right. David Carr. They start off with David Carr. Matt Schaub came into the play a couple years after. Then, they're dealing with a couple QB issues with Brock Osweiler and all that. And then, boom, they get their QB of the future, Deshaun Watson. It looks like it's doing great. Coaches fall down. The whole thing with Deshaun Watson and all that happened. And, boom, now they're back in stage 1 where were 20 years ago. And almost exactly 21 years ago. It's one of those things where you cannot pass up on a guy like C.J. Stroud. He is, let me tell you some of these things, and this is, last year, in 2021, in his 2021 season, 4,000 yards, 44 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, passing RTG 130, and a 71% completion rating. Going into the next year, he threw less passes and less completions, still got 41 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, and a completion rating of 65. And CJ Stroud, he's not much of a runner, but when he needs to run, he can run. I feel like after the Georgia game, he should obviously be the number 2 pick in the draft. Or number 1 in that matter. But I feel like the Panthers already know where they're going with this. They're gonna take Bryce Young, obvious. So I feel like it'd be stupid enough for Houston not to pass up on Stroud when they can get a player at 12 that has known C.J. Stroud, and I will get on that later on. You probably know who it is. But right here with the second pick, I have Houston taking C.J. Stroud. Third pick, it comes down to either Jalen Carter, Will Anderson, or Tyree Wilson. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going straight up Will Anderson here. I think Will Anderson, like I said, he has been up in those mock drafts for the last year or so now. Some people thought he'd be a top pick, but with the whole quarterback situation, I have Arizona, who doesn't need a quarterback. They need to fix up that defense up a little bit. They're lost Chandler Jones a year ago. I feel like Will Anderson comes in and takes over that role. Younger player. You don't really gotta. You don't have the veteran side of him, but I feel like after a couple years, he will get that veteran side of him, and then he will help elevate the whole team. And then now we get to the Colts. Colts, they're one of those teams that don't like to reach on players. They want to get the best player around, and they're willing to trade back. They're willing to trade back if they need to. And I feel like at this spot, I don't think there's any reason to hold the trade back, because with the QB issue that they're having, I feel like they could still trade down, but I feel like with how the hype of this guy about to tell you, with the hype he's getting around after the combine, I feel like it's perfect that he is going to get that spot. I feel like Anthony Richardson is going to be in Indianapolis Colts this season. I feel like that's where they're going to pick with the 4th overall pick. And I feel, and Anthony Richardson, he can be one of those Jalen Hurts types guys with the Colts, with their Eagles' old offensive coordinator going to the Colts. Can't remember his name at this moment, but he can really change Anthony Richardson's development here and make him possibly the next Jalen Hurts. And I'm not trying to say he's going to be just like Jalen Hurts, but the way he was with Jalen Hurts last year, if you can turn a guy like that into people not thinking he's going to be that good to, he's almost winning a Super Bowl in 2 years, I'm just saying I think that's pretty good stuff. So I have Anthony Richardson going to the Indianapolis Colts. Seattle Seahawks, 5th pick. I have them taking Jalen Carter. I feel like this is just the right pick for them. They need some defensive look. He can win in power. It feels like he's always doing something incredible almost every week. There's not really much he can really improve on, but he is going to be a versatile defensive tackle. I do feel like he can, do a lot of things that some defensive tackles can't do. And him in Seattle, I just have a feeling that would work perfectly. So, Detroit Lions. I was, before the whole, all the suspensions for the gambling came out, I didn't really know who Detroit was going to pick. Now, coming out of it, I still don't know who they'll pick, but I have a guy that I have been looking at for a little bit here that I feel like can change their whole process up. Because Jeff Okudah traded, obviously. He was a 3rd overall pick, did not work. Now you look into it, they need to get a corner. One of the best corners in the draft, Davon Witherspoon, would be a perfect fit for them. Last year, at the start of the year, they were one of the worst defenses. I feel like they were getting cooked corner-wise every week. They were just one of the worst defenses. Come in Davon Witherspoon here. He had 3 interceptions last year. A passer rating against him, look at this. In 2020, it was 122. The year in 2021, it was 86. Last year, the passer rating against him was only 25.3. So you bring in a guy like Davon Witherspoon, and he's gonna go off. And he got targeted 62 times, 206 yards, and all those are better than the years prior. Besides targeted wise, where he got targeted 33 times in 2020, and he played more games than those 2 years combined. in those 2 years, and yet still let up less yards, but still targets and less catches. He let up less catches than he did in 2020 and 2021, and less yards. So I think it's kind of obvious he would help with Detroit and going into that Detroit system. So at third pick, I have Davon Witherspoon. Raiders. This is where the Raiders have had a bad history of drafting. I think we all know that. They don't have a quarterback anymore. As much as I think they need to draft a quarterback, I don't think they're going to because of how much money they gave Jimmy Garoppolo. This is where I feel like they take Tyree Wilson here to be with Chandler Jones. I feel like it would help a lot with defensive side. Offensive side, I feel, quarterback-wise, I feel like they can wait until next year because of Jimmy Garoppolo. And one thing I have, starting to think about, if they don't do good, if they do worse than they did last year, there's a potential chance that their head coach, Josh McDaniels, can get fired. And to be honest with you, I think that'd be the best option because honestly, he is not a good coach. He is not a good coach. I'm going to say that right here, right now. He is not good. I still don't know why people get coaches from the Bill Belichick coaching tree because after they leave Bill Belichick, they're terrible. And that's where I feel they can fire Josh McDaniels next year if they do really bad. Because last year they were going to look really good. They built that team up and missed the playoffs. So, but here we go with the Atlanta Falcons here. I got them taking Christian Gonzalez right out of Oregon. They've had some corner issues in the last couple of years. They have some defensive issues the last couple of years. And with Christian Gonzalez coming right in there, he can do good. He has improved on the passer rating wise over the last couple of years. He had 4 interceptions last year. He let up more catches and yards this past season. Because he let up 30 catches last year and 39, and that's the highest he's had because he had 30 in 2021. He let up the most yards in his college career and let up 3 touchdowns, but he had 4 interceptions. Passer rating was 74.7. So it could either be a hit or miss with him. I feel like he would be great in that system. He wins in movement skills. He'll be a versatile cornerback, but he can improve on a couple things, like playing on with an edge. The only thing keeping him as a number 1 corner in the draft is his mentality, pretty much. And I feel like if you just let him, go off, I feel like he can do something special. So, Falcons, I got them taking Christian Gonzalez. Then we get Chicago. Chicago Bears were traded for 1 to 9. I feel like this is an obvious pick. If you've seen my other NFL talk, I have said multiple times Chicago needs an offensive line. They got the receiver. They got 3 receivers, so they don't got to worry about receivers. They don't need to worry about tight end. They don't really need to worry about running back. What they need to deal with now is the offensive line. Because I feel with Justin Fields, their defense could be mid at best, but still be pretty good offensive-wise if they get an offensive line. And I feel like Peter Skoronski here from Northwestern would be a perfect fit for Chicago based off, his, it's also close to Chicago. They're also going to be close overall. But I feel like it's going to help Chicago in ways that, they haven't got helped in the past. Offensive line-wise. If you notice, their offensive line has been horrendous. And I've said all offseason that they need to get some offensive line help. They did with Nate Davis. But, Peter Skoronski, if you have him on the blind side or have him on the other side, he'd be perfect fit. I just feel like he'd be perfect fit for Chicago. He doesn't let up very sacks. He'll be on the left side, of course, because that's where he's played all of his career. So he would be on the blind side of Justin Fields. And I feel like that'd be perfect for Fields. And Chicago, I'm telling you right now, Chicago is going to be one of the teams looking pretty decent next year. I don't know if they're going to go playoffs or deep playoff bound, but they have potential to be up in that spot. Like, they were a, 3-4 win team last year? They could potentially go up to an 8-9, maybe 10 win team with the additions they have brought in this offseason. And Justin Fields, he's a generational talent. That's just facts. And you can have a roster like that and with a quarterback like Fields, and they could do something special. And plus with DJ Moore, it's going to be special right there. It's going to be amazing. But Philadelphia Eagles, I have the Philadelphia Eagles trading this pick. One pick back, and I have the Titans trading up with them, swapping their picks. Main reason, and they don't really need to, but I still have them doing it, because it could go either way with these two. But I feel like this is a great spot for Titans to trade up here. And either way, and this trade is not going to, and if this does happen or if it doesn't happen, I feel like it's not going to fuck up any, it's not going to mess up any of the guys' draft stock or spots here. Because with the 10th pick, I have the Titans taking Will Levis. I have them taking a quarterback here. Main reason is Tennessee looks like they're going into a rebuild mode here. They're slowly going into a rebuild. How do you fix that? You get next season's gonna be a rebuild year. I feel like they're not gonna contend for playoffs. I feel like next year is where they're gonna sleep, get some good stuff in there, develop a rookie quarterback, and they already tried that with whoever they drafted last year. All I know he was terrible. And with Ryan Tannehill, I think he's getting washed. Derrick Henry, he's almost 30. Once running backs hit 30, they usually get, bumped out. And I feel with this 10th pick or 10th pick I have, Will Levis can get in there, be the QB of the future for the Titans, and try to lead them to a Super Bowl. Then with the 11th pick, Eagles, they lost Miles Sanders, so I think it's only right that they take Bijan Robinson here. And I'm not a fan of taking running backs early in the first round, but with Bijan Robinson in the Eagles situation, I think it just lines things together, because if they're not taking him there, Dallas will at 27. And since they're going to take him off the board there, I feel like that's where Dallas changes their draft spot there. And they're going to pick up a guy later on that's really going to help their team. And I'm going to get into that right in a little bit here. But then we get to Houston, 13th or 12th. I told you guys earlier that they could pick CJ Stroud, and then later on they can pick on a guy that knows CJ Stroud. And that's Jackson Smith Najigba. I think that's how you say his last name right there. Jackson Smith, I feel like, they have already seen what you do with Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow. Imagine what they could do with Jackson Smith and CJ Stroud. They've already been to college together. They've been teammates. You bring them into the same offense, and I feel like they're gonna be special. They already seen what they did with with Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow. So, and these two are gonna be in the same draft. These two are in the same draft class, so they can go in right together, and then boom, lay in the fences right there. And it's only once in a lifetime that you really get a draft where you can get two guys that played on the same team, that know each other really well, and into the same organization. I feel like that's once in a lifetime that you can ever really do that. So I feel like Jackson Smith, 12th pick, is going to be the obvious right choice for him. Even though he did not play a lot last year because of injury, going into the draft, it's going to be concern about his injury prone last season. But I don't care. CJ Stroud, Jackson Smith, great for Houston. Next pick, I originally, before the Aaron Rodgers trade happened, I had Green Bay and Jets trading with each other, and that's where Rodgers gets traded. And I had them sweeping picks. This was like, and I had that all wrote down before the trade happened. So it was a good thing that I get started today because, I already kind of predicted it. So Green Bay with their pick at 13, with Jordan Love getting into the field here, um, and I feel they could use a wide receiver. But right now, I think offensive line is where they need to go. And I think Broderick Jones is the right guy that they can take at 13 from Georgia. And, maybe a replacement for David Bakhtiari later down the future. He's only played left tackle. He's played a little bit of right tackle last season, or in 2020, and he played 25 snaps at right tackle in 2020, 9 in 2021, but otherwise he has been mainly on left tackle. He's played over 1,000 snaps on that side of the ball, or on that side of the line. With that being said, I feel like he could, he'd be blindside to Jordan Love. And with wide receiver issues, I don't feel like they can trade. There's a lot of good wide receivers in this draft that they can either trade back into the first round some way, or they can wait until the second round and get another receiver to help with Christian Watson, Jordan Love, and get that team back up and going. Because with the Aaron Rodgers trade, it's questionable what they're going to do next year. They missed the playoffs last year. We don't know if it's going to be another I don't know if their Packers are going to finally go into a rebuild year, or are they going to say as an organization, hey, no, we need to, we need to get going here. Matt LaFleur, he's going to be like, we need to keep going. We need to prove why, we can do this without Aaron Rodgers. So we need to make them prove why we picked Jordan Love a couple years ago. So I think Broderick Jones would be perfect for Green Bay. And then we get into New England. I have them taking Nolan Smith, freak athlete. He had 5 sacks last year. He had 2 sacks last year. Only played 8 games. I feel like he'd be perfect with the defense in New England. I feel like he could do some really good things over there. So that's why I have him going to New England right now. They are willing to trade Mac Jones. I read something like that they were willing to get rid of Mac Jones. But I feel like Nolan Smith at this pick would be good. Then we get into Jets. I feel this is where another offensive lineman comes off the board here. And Paris Johnson Jr., he is another freak athlete that we have been seeing here on, we've been seeing on the draft stock as of late. I feel Jets' offensive line, has not been the best over the last couple of years. They got Mekhi Becton, but he's dealt with some injuries, and bringing Paris Johnson in would help. If there's anything wrong on one side, he can go on the other side, pretty much. He's played a little bit of right guard in his career. He played right guard last season. He played a little bit of left guard in 2020. He played a little snaps at right tackle, but last year he was mainly on the left side, and that's where he got his main spot right there. So, Paris Johnson, I feel, at number 16 would be the best spot. Or at 15, my bad. He'd help he would help block for Aaron Rodgers, obviously right there, and with a lot of the weapons that they got on the Jets, they could easily go into the second round and pick some defensive players, and then boom, they're ready for next season. I already feel like they're going to be in the playoffs. I feel like their playoff contention, maybe Super Bowl type of team. So, and boom, Paris Johnson is right there at 15. So, 16, Washington Commanders. I looked at them for a while and was wondering what they needed to do. I was looking at the team. looking at other people's mock drafts, what they got, what their opinions on, and I finally came to the conclusion what they're going to do. I have them going right into it here. What the hell? Oh, I don't even have... Where the hell is it at? Oh, my bad. I have the Washington Commanders taking Dalton Kincaid from Utah, tight end. He is up there as one of the best tight ends in the draft with Michael Mayer and Darnell Washington. But I feel like he would fit perfectly in the Commanders' offense. Last year he had 70 receptions, 890 yards, almost 1,000 yards, 8 touchdowns. Best season that he had. He didn't really play much in 2020. Played a little bit in 2021, and then this year he just exploded out of nowhere. He wins in natural receiving ability. He can do a lot of things. He can adjust the ball where where defensive players can't get it. He can improve in a couple things like muscle mass and stuff. He listed at 240 last year. We're only 3 tight ends. My bad. My notes were all screwing me up here. My notes, I put in my notes here. Last year, only 3 tight ends last season listed at 240 or below. And, muscle mass could be something he can work on. But I feel like Utah or Commanders with a tight end here would be perfect. Whoever the quarterback's going to be, last year they had so many issues at quarterback. And I feel, they already have the receivers. They got someone on an offensive line. And bringing in a tight end like Dalton Kincaid would really work for whoever's quarterback. Then we get into Pittsburgh here. Pittsburgh, I've been looking at them, wondering what they're going to do. Because there's a lot of holes that they can fix. But I have them picking Joey Porter with their pick. Main reason I think it'd be help with defense. I think they got decent corners over there already. Or alright somewhat. They brought in Patrick Peterson. So, if they bring in Joey Porter Jr., Patrick Peterson can help develop him because he's at that stage where he needs to help elevate other players to get them up to their full potential. Last year he had a pretty good season. Only letting up 15 receptions for 143 yards in the 10 games that he played. Passer rating of 63.6. He could really do good things over in Pittsburgh. So, Joey Porter, I got him going at 17. Then we got Detroit. Now this is where I think another tight end comes off the board in Michael Mayer. Obviously one of the best tight ends coming out of the draft. Been looking at him for a couple months now. I feel like Detroit, after trading TJ Hawkinson, I think is, I think this is where they go big here and pick a tight end. He had 101 targets, 67 receptions, 800 yards, 9 touchdowns last season. All of those, besides their yards, was career high. Or no, receptions. He had most touchdowns in his career last season. And I feel like with the whole gambling incident, a lot of those guys getting suspended. Jameson Williams, for an example, it could really screw up their side of the draft because they're gonna miss some of those players for 7 games or whatever. But I still think Michael Mayer is gonna be the perfect guy for Detroit. That's one hole that they're missing deeply right there. Is either receiver, tight end. Boom, put Michael Mayer there. Gonna go off. Tampa Bay, another team that's slowly going into that rebuilding mode here. Obviously, they lost Tom Brady last offseason. They're losing quite a few players on defense, offense, all that. But I got them taking Brian Branch from Alabama here at pick 19. He can really... He's one of those players that, he can only problem I have with Brian Branch is there's plays that I've seen. He's a smart player, but there's some plays last season or in 2021 where if they there's gonna be a big play let up. Brian Branch was usually the guy that let up those plays. So that being said, I think he would still work on that defensive side, work with Todd Bowles, the head coach. He could really fix some of the defensive problems they had last season over there, and Brian Branch would be perfect. So, Seattle Seahawks, right into another, Jalen Carter was one of those guys that I had them picking earlier in the draft, but right now with this 20th pick, I am taking Lucas Van Ness, another guy who is really locked up those draft boards last season. A hockey player. He had 9 sacks last year. From his compared 4. He had a really good season last year. And I'm an Iowa fan, so I've seen a lot of Lucas Van Ness stuff here. So I feel Lucas Van Ness is one of those guys that he can, if you need a big play and a good moment of the game, he is right there. Him and Jack Campbell last year were a 1-2 punch combo. It was like if he's not gonna show up at that spot, Jack Campbell will be right there after. And Lucas Van Ness is just another good Iowa defensive player that's gonna come out, and I feel like he has a lot of upside, and I feel like there's not really negative things you can really say about him. So, Lucas Van Ness, Seattle, perfect defense is gonna look phenomenal next year. Lucas Van Ness. Chargers. I was looking at Chargers. There's a lot of things they can improve, but one thing they need to really, really improve is corner, and I have them taking Dante Banks here from Maryland. They tried bringing in Jonathan Jones last season. Let's just say that did not go well at the start of the season. He got hurt. What is he going to do next year, we don't know. Coming off an ACL injury is not the best thing to really come off of when you're already had a bad season last season. And I feel like Dante Banks can come in there, potentially get that number 1 role, and thrive. Then we get into Baltimore here. Baltimore has been obviously dealing with some Lamar Jackson type of issues here, but I feel like Lamar is going to stay based off what receiver is there. They already brought in Odell Beckham, and I feel if they bring in another receiver to help, and they have not had a great history of drafting receivers. They have Rashad Bateman, of course, over there, but I feel like if they draft Jordan Addison, he would really fit with Lamar and Odell and whatever is going on over there. So yeah, I have Jordan Addison going at pick 23. He is obviously another one of the best receivers coming out of this draft here. 800 yards last season. He had a little bit of a down year, but played less games. And then again, USC, obviously they're one of the going to thrive as a college team next season. But Jordan Addison, I think he would help with a lot of the problems. And I feel like that's one of the main problems that Lamar has is with the receiver issue. He hasn't had many receivers. He's had Mark Andrews, pretty much, and Hollywood Brown. They traded Hollywood Brown last season. Lamar asked for a trade. They feel like they're going to go downhill. Boom, they bring in guys that they could fix that issue. And Odell already being overpaid as it is, it's going to be hard for another contract extension next year. And I'm just saying, if they lose Odell and Lamar next season, I feel like that's where you rebuild. Because defensively, they're all right. They're losing a couple players. Offensively, Lamar was their entire offense. So, Baltimore, I have them taking Jordan Addison. Then we get in with the Minnesota Vikings. Another team, they lost a receiver this last offseason. And this is where I feel they get their Adam Thielen replacement in Zay Flowers from Boston College. He had He had 1,000 yards last season, 12 touchdowns. He is another, really good receiver. Him and Jay Jettis was gonna they would blow the roof off. Jacksonville Jaguars with the 25th pick. I got them going in here and I looked at their roster. It was a very there was one spot on that roster that I really, it was very ugly to look at, and it was offensive line. That's why with this pick I have him taking Darnell Wright from Tennessee. And I feel with having a franchise quarterback, one of those things you need is a offensive line. Some quarterbacks can really, some quarterbacks can thrive with a bad offense, but there's some quarterbacks that cannot do it. And I'm not saying Trevor Lawrence can do it, but if he gets hit hard enough, as many times, and let's say an 8-year span, he can have to retire young like Andrew Luck did. So, and that offensive line looks horrendous besides Brandon Sheff who's already there. So Darnell Wright will be the pick at 25. Now when we get into the New York Giants. Giants. I hate the Giants. All right. So, no, the New York Giants are, looking, they were a playoff team last year. They lost a couple, they don't have, there's a lot of holes on that roster they need to fix. I feel like one of those main things, they brought back their QB of the future, Daniel Jones. That contract's terrible. Saquon Barkley on the franchise tag. And I feel like if you're gonna keep Daniel Jones, for that long, I feel like that's where Quentin Johnson comes into play from TCU. He obviously, it was explosive last season. Went from 33 receptions to 60 receptions. Went from 604 receiving yards to 1,067 yards, and he still had 6 touchdowns compared to what he had last year, and played more games. Quentin Johnson, of course, I feel could go right into the New York Giants' team and potentially already be a number 1 receiver. So, perfect fit for them. Then we get into it with Dallas. Everyone, and I've seen everyone's opinion on Dallas, who they're going to take Jamar Gibbs, a tight end, whatever. I'm disagreeing with everybody there. I don't think they need a tight end. I don't think they need a running back. Yeah, Tony Pollard got hurt last season. Yeah, Tony Pollard might look different, next season. We don't know what's going to happen with Tony Pollard. We don't know what's going to happen at all. But they could still try to trade up and get Jamar Gibbs later on. Tight end wise, we don't need it. We could get Darnell Washington because that's the only really good tight end left on that board coming up to that point on my mock draft. But I don't think they need to. The guy I think they need to take is a good old guy from Iowa. Linebacker Jack Campbell. It is reaching. It's a little bit of a reach going right in the late first round. But I feel like if Dallas don't get him right there, he'll be gone in the early second round. I just feel that's where he's one of the best linebackers in the draft. You can probably get him in the second round, but I feel like if Dallas doesn't, he would be gone. Because they got the 56th pick or 58th pick, so they gotta wait a while to get up to that spot. They're gonna have anxiety issues going right up to that spot. So I feel like right then and there, you already have Leighton Vander Esch for 2 years. Micah Parsons is a linebacker, but he's always on the edge, so you don't really have many guys up there. And last year, Anthony Barr had that spot, but we don't have Anthony Barr anymore. So that's where you get Jack Campbell, who is explosive, hits hard, hits you right in the middle. And upside to this, he doesn't get as injured as frequently as Leighton Vander Esch does, which is a good sign of relief for whenever Leighton Vander Esch is down. You need a number 1 guy to go in there. Jack Campbell's that guy. Jack Campbell would help all the linebacking problems for Dallas this offseason and next season. They would help so much. So I feel, they don't need a running back. They don't need a tight end. They don't need freaking corner, the linebacker. Go Jack Campbell. He's going to help your world. And him and Dan Quinn, oh, don't get me started. That's like peanut butter and jelly. Right then and there. Jack Campbell. That's my pick for Dallas. I'm a Cowboys fan, so it's a little bit of bias. I'm a Cowboys fan and I'm an Iowa fan, so it's like it lines up together. It's a great fit for them. I think that's where it goes. But I'm letting you know if they do pick him. And last year I wanted them to pick a Iowa player. And Tyler Linderbaum, they didn't get him obviously, but I still love Tyler Smith. If they get Jack Campbell here, man, I'm getting a jersey day one. Once I find out what his number is, boom, ordering it. Just saying. Jack Campbell, I feel like, is the perfect spot for him. So enough talk about Dallas here. Let's get into it with Buffalo. And I've been seeing a lot of people saying, they're going to be dealing with Burrow and Mahomes for the next 10 years. So they need defensive players so they can, go after Burrow and Mahomes. There's only one problem to that. You need an offensive line. Bill's offensive line doesn't look good, besides Deion Dawkins sitting there. He's probably the best guy on that offensive line. And I'm sorry, with as many times as Josh Allen freaking gets flown around sometimes, I don't think they need to go defense here. I think that's where Anton Harrison from Oklahoma comes in and fixes a little bit of their offensive line help. He would, fix. And when they go in and play Cincinnati, when they go in and play Kansas City, they're gonna be like, well, we can just go after the weak points of that offensive line. Yeah, there is going to be some weak points, but when you see that strong points, you're gonna put a weaker guy on the strong point, and boom, I feel it's just gonna work perfectly. So, the Cincinnati Bengals at pick 28. I had some questions about what they're going to do in the draft with the whole Joe Mixon situation, but I do know who I have them picking. I looked at the roster, I seen what they needed, and I looked at one guy, and I'm like, you're going over there, and I have Darnell Washington going over to the Cincinnati Bengals. Main reason, he's a fucking monster. He is a monster. He's a monster. I don't know how many times. I might say it 7 times. He's a monster. That's the 4th time, I think. He's a monster 5 times. He's a monster 6 times. He's a monster 7 times. He's a monster. And, just looking at him, Burrow, Chase, maybe Joe Mixon if he's there next year. Ooh. Damn. That's some stuff right there. That's going to be horrendously good for the Cincinnati Bengals. All right, Cincinnati or St. Louis. I'm an idiot. New Orleans Saints. Obviously, they've got some, fixes over there. Bringing in Derek Carr and everything. I looked at the roster. Offensive line looks all right. Receivers look okay. Running back, we don't know yet with the whole Alvin Kamara stuff. I feel like Myles Murphy can go there at 30 and can really, thrive. And if you look at Cameron Jordan, 31, other than that, there's not really anyone there they can really say, because I think Marcus Davenport left. I believe he did. So Myles Murphy would help everyone's problem. Then you get into it with Philadelphia. There's another, they could easily trade out of that spot into someone else, but I have them taking in a defensive lineman here with Kajia Cansey. Kajia Cansey. He's a defensive lineman from Pittsburgh. I don't know if I said his right name or his first name right. My apologies. But I looked at some film on him, and he looks pretty good. 9 sacks last year, 10 sacks in 2021, 9 sacks again in 2020. He had 30 hurries last year. Or no, he had 9 hits, 10 hits and then 9 hits. He had 8 sacks last year, 9 sacks in 2021, and 2 in 2020. He is looking like a real pain in the ass for a lot of teams. And, we don't know how many years Fletcher Cox has. We don't know how many. I looked at the roster, and their roster looks like they're getting old. They're getting old in a lot of places that you don't want them to get old at. For an example, offensive line, they're getting old there. Jordan Mailata's going to be 28. Lane Johnson's going to be 32 or 33. Jason Kelsey's going to be 36, And they're playing at high level still, but what's going to happen when they don't get at that high level anymore? You already gave your quarterback $200-some million. Maybe it's time to look into some offensive line in this draft, but I have them taking Kancey at 30. And then, of course, at 31, the last pick in the draft, first round, I have good old Kansas City Chiefs. They lost a lot of players offensive line-wise, or they lost a couple offensive linemen. They brought in a couple people. One thing they really need to fix is receiver. That's why I got them taking Josh Downs with the final pick in the first round. I feel like he can really help with some of their issues. A Tyreek Hill replacement somewhat. He's not going to be just like him, but he's just sort of like a replacement. So, that is my first round mock draft. If there's anything you think I should change, let me know in the comments below. What you think. This is what I got so far. Let me tell you, it was a pain to see some of these guys because I didn't know where I think they should go. But I went with my gut feeling on every single one of them, what I think would be best for each team. Because when you're looking at drafting, you really need to look at, what's best for them right now, but what's also going to be best for the future of that team. So that's why I have Jack Campbell right there. So at Dallas, I'm just saying. But everyone have a good day. That's all I got for today. I know I said on my Twitter page, I would have wrestling news and all that, but I did not realize how long this was gonna take. Wrestling news, baseball, hockey, all that, and NBA. I will talk with all that tomorrow. Everyone have a good day. Enjoy yourself. Enjoy the draft. Enjoy everything about life, because, sometimes it only takes one little change to change everything. So, have a good day.